You are not seeing reality. You are seeing a shortcut, a compressed version of the world your brain creates to survive. Right now, as you listen to this, your mind is deleting detail, ignoring depth, simplifying everything into symbols. Because truth is expensive, and your brain prefers efficiency. Look around you. Everything feels clear, stable, familiar. But that is the illusion. Because if I asked you to describe the exact shape of the object closest to you, you probably couldn't. Not precisely. Not accurately. You would hesitate. You would generalize. You would guess. Because you are not observing. You are recognizing. And recognition is not the same as seeing. Most people never notice this. They move through life naming things instead of studying them. Cup, chair, door, hand, tree, vase. The label appears and observation ends. The mind says, I know what this is. But it doesn't. It only knows the category. It does not know the exact curve of the surface. It does not know how the light fades across the edge. It does not know the tension hidden in the form. It does not know the true dimensions, only a rough summary. And in 2026, this problem is getting worse. You scroll through hundreds of images a day, maybe thousands. Your eyes land on everything, but stay nowhere. Your attention has been trained for speed, not depth. For reaction, not contemplation. For stimulation, not truth. This is glance culture. Vast, addictive, superficial. And it is destroying your ability to see clearly. Your brain filters out most of reality to conserve energy. It removes what it thinks is unnecessary. Texture disappears. Subtle contrast disappears. Depth gets flattened. Complexity gets turned into something easy, manageable, and false. So the world you think you see is not the world as it is. It is the world after reduction, after compression, after distortion. Leonardo da Vinci understood this centuries ago. He knew that sight was not passive. It was not automatic. It was not something to trust without discipline. He believed seeing was a skill, a power, a form of intelligence. He had a phrase for it: sapervedia, knowing how to see. Not glancing, not identifying, seeing. This is what separated him from ordinary minds. He did not accept first impressions. He did not trust what appeared obvious. He questioned surfaces. He studied details. He investigated light, shadow, structure, movement, anatomy, water, stone, clouds, faces, hands, leaves, machines. He trained his eyes until they became more precise than habit. That is why his work still feels alive. Not because he was mystical, because he was accurate. And accuracy is rare. Take your own hand and look at it now. Not casually. Actually look. Where exactly is the brightest point? Where does that brightness begin to weaken? Which parts fall into shadow first? Is the edge sharp or is it soft? How many tones exist between light and darkness? Suddenly, your own hand becomes unfamiliar, complex, strange. This is the moment real seeing begins. The moment the symbol breaks. The moment the mind stops saying hand and starts asking questions. Leonardo lived in those questions. He knew that most people stop too early. They take one glance and assume they understand. But the first glance is almost always a lie. It gives you the rough version, never the truth. It gives you convenience, never depth. To see clearly, you must resist the first glance. You must stay longer than your impulses want to stay. You must let the object reveal itself slowly. Because reality does not open itself to impatient eyes. It rewards the disciplined. And that is what this is really about. Not art. Not drawing. Not aesthetics. Discipline. The discipline to stay with something long enough for illusion to collapse. Most people cannot do that anymore. Their mind starts searching for novelty within seconds. Their perception has been hijacked by movement, by feeds, by endless stimulation. But the eye of Leonardo was different. It was still, precise, patient, and because of that, it could go deeper than ordinary vision ever could. The question is not whether you have eyes. The question is whether you know how to use them. Leonardo understood something most people never realize. Light is not decoration. Light is information. Everything visible is revealed by light and shaped by shadow. Without them, form disappears. Depth disappears. Structure disappears. You do not truly see an object. You see the way light interacts with it. This is why Leonardo became obsessed with transitions. Not outlines. Not hard borders. Transitions. He knew that nature does not draw in black lines. It does not surround objects with perfect edges. What you call an edge is usually just a difference in tone, a shift in brightness, a border created by contrast. Your brain translates that contrast into a line because lines are easier to process. But the line is not really there. It is a shortcut. Leonardo saw through the shortcut. This is one reason his technique of sfumato was so powerful. Sfumato was not just an artistic effect. It was a philosophy of vision. It was his way of showing that reality is made of subtle gradations, not harsh separations. Things emerge from shadow. They dissolve into light. One surface turns into another through tone, not through outline. That is how real seeing works. You stop drawing symbols and start noticing transitions. Imagine a sphere on a table. Most people would describe it simply. A round object. A circle. Maybe they would draw a clean outline around it and call it done. Leonardo would not. He would study where the light lands most directly. He would study where the brightness begins to fall away. He would look for the soft middle tones, the core shadow, the reflected light near the dark edge, the cast shadow on the surface below, the tiny changes that make the sphere feel real. Because those tiny changes are the truth of the form. The outline is not. There is a point on every object where light strikes most directly. The point of incidence. If you can find that point, the object begins to reveal its structure. It tells you the orientation of the surface. It tells you how the form is turning in space. It tells you where tension builds and where depth begins. This is a far more intelligent way of seeing than simply tracing the outer edge. The outer edge tells you almost nothing. The light tells you everything. This is why most people see flatly. They rely on symbols, labels, and outlines. Leonardo saw volume. He saw surfaces turning away from light. He saw form unfolding in space. He saw shadow not as darkness, but as evidence. Evidence of depth. Evidence of angle. Evidence of structure. That kind of vision changes the way you experience the world. A face is no longer just a face. It becomes a living map of planes and curves. A building is no longer a block. It becomes a system of surfaces under light. A hand is no longer a symbol. It becomes architecture. And once you begin to see like this, your perception sharpens fast. Because now your mind is no longer consuming images passively. It is analyzing them, testing them, measuring them. This is where observation becomes training. Beyond light, there is structure. And beneath structure, there is geometry. Reality is not random. It is built. Hidden beneath chaos is order. Leonardo understood this deeply. He saw mathematics as the universal language of reality. Because everything follows patterns. Faces, trees, bodies, buildings, movement, growth, all of it. You just don't see it yet. But once you start looking, it appears everywhere. Look at a tree. At first, it seems chaotic. But stay with it. Branches split into smaller branches. Patterns repeat. Structure reveals itself. Look at a face. It feels natural, but it follows proportions, symmetry, alignment, ratios. Look at a room. At first, it feels cluttered. But then you notice perspective lines. Everything moves toward a vanishing point. Suddenly chaos becomes organized. This is the hidden architecture of reality. And when you start seeing it, your mind changes. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You start feeling in control. Because structure creates clarity. And clarity creates calm. Try this. Look at any space around you. Find the lines, the edges of walls, the direction of objects, the angles of surfaces. Once you see them, the noise disappears. Your perception stabilizes. Your focus sharpens. And this is not just visual. It affects how you think. Because the way you see the world determines how you understand it. But seeing is not enough. You must train it. Leonardo didn't just observe. He recorded. Constantly. He used sketching as a tool for truth. Because when you draw something, you cannot lie to yourself. Your brain thinks it understands. Your hand proves otherwise. Proportions are wrong. Angles are off. Details are missing. This is where growth happens. In the gap between what you think you see and what is actually there. Every time you correct that gap, your brain rewires. You begin to notice details automatically. The smallest things. The tension in a hand. The slight asymmetry in a face. The way light fades across a surface. This is neuroplasticity in action. And it changes everything. Because now, you are no longer blind to reality. Over time, this creates something powerful. A clear mind. A precise mind. A mind that sees things as they are, not as they appear. This is what we can call the crystalline mind. And in today's world, that is a rare advantage. Because most people react without seeing. They assume without understanding. They decide without observing. But you won't. Because you trained your perception. You learned to slow down. You learned to look deeper. And that changes how you think, how you decide, how you act. Here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, replace 1 hour of scrolling with 10 minutes of observation. No phone. No distractions. Pick one object and study it. Look at the light. Find the shadows. Understand the structure. Search for patterns. Notice details you've never seen before. At first, it will feel slow, even uncomfortable. That's normal. Your brain is addicted to speed. But stay with it, because on the other side of boredom is clarity. And once you see clearly, you cannot go back. The world will look the same, but it will not feel the same. Because now, you finally see it.